Hello, my name is Jantare and I want to welcome you to Reinvent Your Body series. How to create your best health, stop yo-yo dieting and lose weight for good. Today's my guest is Dr. Anna Maria Temple. Hello, Anna Maria.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. It's good to see you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure having you here. Would you mind introducing yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Dr. Anna Maria Temple, and I am a traditionally trained medical doctor. And over the years, I have studied functional and integrative medicine. So now I practice pediatrics with a holistic approach.
Wonderful. So, Dr. Anna Maria, every single day, I hear more and more and younger kids having weight issues. And it sounds like is it families with affected kids, they are not aware of it?
That is true. Yes. A lot of times they're not aware of. And the reason that's happening is because our peripheral vision has changed. So it's a couple things, but I'll start with that one. So what happened if we were to look in 1970 at the children and what children look like? They were thin. They had, a lot of elbows, a lot of knees. There were lots of ribs. When they bent over, you could see their spinal cords. And that was the average looking child. When we went into quarantine and they took away sports, the only thing playing on TV was like football from 1980. And when you pull up the footage of football players from 1980, you are shocked at how small and thin the players are versus the way they look like now. If you look at gymnasts in the 1980s, they look very different than the gymnasts in the 2020s. To just give an example visually, so when you look at classrooms of children that are thin, well, then we all look thin. But now, 60 to 70% of children are overweight. So when you look at your kid in comparison to the other kid, they look normal because everyone else is dealing with a weight issue. But because it's now become the new normal, it doesn't seem to be abnormal. In the 1970s, it would have been totally abnormal.
Oh, definitely. And especially of families with the kids that more or less like between 5 and 10 years old, that gaps off. And they kind of a little bit chunky and all that. But, as a parent, there is or especially maybe other parents and the godparents or grandparents, or families, oh, they're okay. They will they will thinner out. They will grow out because they're still kids. They're still growing. Is that true?
That may have been true 30 years ago, but now we're finding that 80% of kids who are overweight or heavy between the ages of 5 and 8 grow up to be overweight teenagers. And 95% of overweight teenagers become overweight adults. So where in the past that was the thinking and we were seeing that to be the case, we're still applying that to today's standards, and that's no longer the case. 80% of overweight kids end up being overweight teens.
Oh, wow. So they never kind of grow out, so they just carry on.
Yes. Yeah. So they develop, the fat cells are formed and they become more numerous, and then they carry them throughout their life.
Do you think that's sort of little kind of those activities, I don't know, in a school, some fitness activities or outside running around, even that doesn't help anymore, isn't it?
It's true, because you know what? 70% of our body, the how fit we are, how thin we are, how healthy we are, 70% of that comes from the kitchen. Everyone thinks that, we're going to eat whatever, and as long as we're running around, it's not a problem. Everybody thinks that activity, because that's the message we're getting. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but it's not conspiracy, is the food industry has made sure the message that's coming across is that it's about movement and that we're not moving enough. And where that also is true, that we're not moving enough, the core of the issue is in the kitchen.
So, when we were, all the adults that's suffering now with overweight, back then, when they were kids, they all were thin. They all were slim. And so, and now they are overweight. Where did, what happened? Where did all went wrong? You know?
It is such a common question I get in clinic, because that's what everybody says, like, I was so skinny and then look what happened. I was like, well, when we were younger, right, we were making certain food choices and we weren't taught how to eat. Like now you need a nutritionist degree to know how to eat. It's becoming so complicated. But what happens is we as kids we were outside and in the sunshine and we were eating okay, but processed foods started being heavily present in the 1980s when we became on the low fat diet, if you all remember. And the low fat craze was, let's remove fat from the food and add sugar. And once sugar was added to our diet, the thin people started eating more sugar laden foods, and now they're overweight adults because the food has changed over time. Since the 1980s, well, in 1980 specifically, I follow some parenting gurus, and they show that in 1980s, and we started becoming so much busier as a society and as parents, that we started substituting money for quality time. So families got busier, people got busier, stress level has increased, and now social media, and if we look at just what's going around now, we're just brimming with stress, anxiety, worries. Our schedules are so busy. Our food is garbage. So over time, we've destroyed our guts. So the thin kids now become overweight adults, but it's been a very slow, incremental thing. And I think another thing people don't understand is that the adult illness begins in childhood and shows up in adulthood. We just kind of walk around like, oh, kids are kids. It's no big deal. Kids are fun. They should have fun food. And it doesn't matter, because it does matter, because we're laying the foundation for a chronic disease in childhood, but it doesn't show up until, 20, 30 years later. So then it doesn't seem like that's what it is. You're like, I got heart disease, because of my lifestyle habits for the past 2 years. No, you got heart disease when you were 10 years old, because we showed now that in kids that die from motor vehicle accidents and they do autopsies, they have cholesterol plaques in their coronary arteries starting at the age of 10, and even some other autopsies are showing even younger. So disease process becomes, and it's very slow, and our mind says what happened yesterday means today, but it's really what happened 30 years ago, it means today.
So do you think, like, a parent's, habits, so like kids picking up from that?
100%. Children don't listen to what we say. They copy everything that we do. So a lot of parents that I come across, they're either of the, it doesn't matter what I eat. I'm 40 years old. I should eat whatever I want to eat because I work so hard and I am tired and I've raised these kids, right? The excuses come on. So therefore, if I want ice cream, I should have ice cream. That's ridiculous. And they look at the kids and like, well, you shouldn't have ice cream. Well, that's not fair, and that's not how that's going to work. The kids are going to, if you eat ice cream, they eat ice cream. If you eat garbage, they eat garbage. And then I also have the other side of the families the families are trying to take ownership of their wellness. They're trying to take control of their weight. They're like, I want a healthier lifestyle. I want to be better, live better. And the kids are eating chicken nuggets. That doesn't make any sense. I'm like, if you want to live better and be better, why is a child eating Pop-Tarts, chicken nuggets, and mac and cheese? And again, the question is, they're picky. And, they're not going to want to do that. And the kids are fun. They have fun food. And it doesn't matter because they're kids. And that's why I'm so glad that you invited me on this summit, because we need to address the fact that kids, what they eat is a problem. And it's a huge problem. And if we just keep brushing it off as they're kids and they're fun, they're going to be sicker than us by far greater numbers.
So, so now you say about the families talking all that, and I'm just sort of curious, how do you deal with the families, with them, I guess more like mothers, like, when they come into your practice and you see that it's actually, as a parents and a child are overweight, right?
Yes.
How do you kind of break the sort of conversation? Because it's like very, why my child is like, or even to say to a parent that your child is overweight, it's like, because, you know, as a mother can, you know, take it, whoa, you know, my child is not overweight, you know, don't exaggerate, you know, how dare you? How to break that? That is, and how to start, like, you know, to change, make it changes, like, you know, to guide them, you know. How do you do?
Right. It is so hard. And I totally agree with you, because you got to watch your words. Because if you say that your child is overweight, some parents feel that they're being fat shamed, or they're being, you know, their parenting choices are put into question. And, you know, we've become so sensitive as a society that it's like, you got to watch everything you say, even though you're just kind of stating a fact. And so I have to watch my words. And usually what I say, you know, if the child is really young, then, you know, I kind of have a direct conversation. If the child is older, like 9, 10, I ask them, I'm like, how do you feel about your body? Are you happy with the body? You know, what? And then I don't talk about weight. I go, you know what? I think we could adjust some food choices. And then the way I address the food choices to the family and the child especially is like, you're going to be taller. You want to be faster? You want to be stronger? Do you want to be smarter? Do you want to read better? And I sit and I talk to the child and try to figure out what their want is. They don't care about the weight. Well, unless obviously some do because they made fun of, but generally speaking, they're not coming in saying that that's my concern. They have some other issues, and then we play on that. My teenagers that have bad skin, you know, we go with the skin. Skin is acne in a teenager is a powerful motivator for change, right? Horrible periods, great motivator for change. And then we can not sit and beat them up about the weight issue, because it's all interrelated. Your weight and your acne and your periods and your headaches and your belly pain, they're all part of the same problem. So that's how I try to talk to them about it. I am direct at times, because parents, like we were talking, don't realize that you should be able to see their ribs. You should be able to see their spinal cords. They should look lanky and thin. And again, in our society, it's almost like, oh, they're abnormal. I have families that make excuses for their, oh, well, you know, we're so thin and we eat such great, you know, fruits and vegetables because we have food sensitivities. And yesterday, they told me, said, like, we have to use that because we feel embarrassed that we're the thin people. And I'm like, that is so warped and so wrong, that the message that we're sending to society. And I don't think that people understand what a healthy weight is in a child. I think the messages are very confusing, because we pull out the growth charts. You're on the 90th percentile, and everybody's like, oh, 90th, like it's an A. I'm like, no, that's not an A. That's just like 90th. That has nothing to do with an A. You know, and we look at the height, and I'll often go, so their height is like 25%. So they're on the short side, but their weight's 90th percentile. So they're on the heavy side. These numbers don't match up. And then they are able to kind of see and understand. And we talk about, you know, how our vision has changed and what the implications of that are, because it's like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm like, no, this leads to a lot of chronic issues, kind of like the virus we have right now that is taking people out. And one of the biggest risk factors is being overweight.
Yes, definitely is. So, when the mother comes in with a child, so you obviously having a conversation with a child, right? But to make changes in a life, basically, that's all right. We're just gonna be back. So, to make a changes in a family, it starts from the parents.
100%.
So, when you have a mother sitting overweight, basically, struggling herself, with her weight, and you have a child that obviously, it has to eat better. How do you, it's literally for the mother to make a choice, because mother providing the food. That as well is very difficult, because it's kind of is that the subject itself, the overweight, is touching her, not just a child. So you're kind of speaking with a child, but you kind of meaning
No, so you're totally right. And I was having such a difficult time, because the continuous comeback was, they're picky, they don't want to listen, they're whiny, and the excuses were being made that it was a child's fault. So I said, you know what? No problem. So I actually have conversations directly with the children. And I put the parents to the side and I started having conversations with kids, and I would go down the strong, fast, tall. This is why we don't eat certain foods. I would give them challenges. Like in the US, we have Lunchables, which is a disgusting chemical experiment of a garbage that is considered food. And so a lot of kids here eat that nastiness. And basically it's like crackers, cheese, well, crackers in quotes, cheese in quotes, ham in quotes. Because when you turn around and the label, so I give the kids the task, I'm like, I want you to take a highlighter, and every time that you read a word, you understand, like water, sugar, milk, I want you to highlight it. And if that product is half of it is foods you know how to highlight and understand and pronounce, maybe we'll consider it food and I'll give it a go for right now. But if the majority is stuff that you don't even know what it's saying, that is absolute garbage, and we're not going to eat that ever again. 100% of the time, the kids have came back and never had a Lunchable ever again. And this is like from 7-year-old, even had some 6-year-olds that were more precocious, but from 7 and up. And so I noticed that when I talk to the kids and we do like a food game and we talk about ingredients and how they can rot your teeth or they can shrink your brain. Sugar shrinks your brain. And so kids are very much like, what do you mean it shrinks my brain? I'm like, you can look it up, and Harvard Medical School has amazing studies that show that sugar shrinks your brain. So every time you eat Oreos or cookies at lunch while you're in school, you're not going to remember math. And then they're like, what are you saying? And the kids stop eating. I mean, is it ever? No, but they will change some of their lunch habits. And all I'm going for some small changes. I'm trying to plant the seed every time I see them, so they start looking at food differently and they start making different choices. And then the mom doesn't have to deal with the whining and the complaining, which is just an excuse. Let's be honest. And, but then they don't have that. So now mom has to buy different foods because the child is now refusing. So I've gotten Facebook messages, Instagram messages. After I went into the schools and I did this program in schools where I taught kids how to read labels in 3rd grade. And the moms were like, do you know how difficult shopping is right now? They're throwing tantrums in the aisle because I'm buying their favorite snacks and they think they're full of toxin and chemicals and they refuse to eat them. And I'm like, success.
You mentioned about the box marketing, like highlighting, the ingredients. I think it's not just for the kids, it's for the adults as well. It's like not all of us know the names, what is on there, what is that, what does it mean, it's just the names, literally. It's like, Latin sort of, like, the words we don't use on a daily basis. So it's a good point, like for the adults, even when you go shopping, what is a fat, carbohydrate, sugar, and all that. But when is supplement for this and that, and you're like, what is that?
What I do, exactly. And I'm like, so if you don't know what that word is, if you don't know what monosodium glutamate is, for example, your body doesn't know what it is either. Because our human gut and our human microbiome knows bacteria, viruses, fungus, water, wheat, milk, meat, lettuce, blah, blah, blah. It does not know monosodium glutamate, diphosphate calcium carbonate, carbo wax, blah, 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 it doesn't know what those are. So when you eat if you don't know what that name means, that means your gut doesn't know what it means. So it gets monosodium glutamate and it's like, I should put this in the brain, and then it gets sucralose and it's like, I'm going to put that on your waist. And because it doesn't know, there's no cell component in the human body that's like, what we need? We need some sucralose, some fake sugars, some, what do I want to say? A fake sugar, name a fake sugar. I can't even think of it right now because anyway, all the, when you drink Diet Coke and you have all those fake stuff, the body doesn't know what that is. And you're like, oh, it's Diet Coke. It doesn't have calories. It has chemicals that the body doesn't know what to do with. So it's putting them right on your hips. whatever it's getting, and it gets so confused. And the more we confuse the body, the more it doesn't know what to do with fruits and vegetables, because it's mass chaos in there when we just eat all these foods with all these additives and ingredients that we don't know what they mean.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the kids, you remember they're picky, and they can be sometimes picky, and like, you know, I don't need this, I don't like that, you know. And for the parents, like, it becomes a battlefield every single time when it's a dinner time. How to overcome that? What would you suggest for parents with the young kids, even like for 3 years old, like, you know, 4 years old, or even and 8, 7, and 9, or that sort of age? What would you say?
Yeah, we can do a couple of takeaways that are really easy. Number one, we want to do family dinners. As I said, families have become so busy. In the US, it is uncommon for families to eat family meals every night. That is like a rarity. Eating family meals on a regular basis shows children how to eat. It demonstrates how you sit at the table, and children who sit at the table with their parents regularly eat more fruits, more vegetables, have less weight issues, less anxiety, less ADHD, less asthma, less eczema. I can go on. The medical studies are mind-blowing. Just the simple fact of sitting together at the dinner table, not at a counter, the kids eat and mom cooks. That is not family meal. Family meal, we're all sitting our tushes down on a chair and we share a meal together. Number one. Number two, the parents have to demonstrate good eating. If the parents eat fast food, the children are not going to eat broccoli. The end. So the parents have to demonstrate good eating habits. Next, children under 16 don't have driver's licenses and they don't have money. So the only people that are providing them with garbage food are the parents. So stop buying the garbage. We buy the garbage because we want to eat it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard like, but I like it. I'm like, our job is to raise great children. You know what I mean? Like, I want to drink a martini at 12 o'clock in the afternoon on a stressful day. But that's not necessarily the message I want to give my children, that, you know, when I'm stressed out, I'm going to be busting out a martini. But we don't have the same theory with food. For some reason, that's separate. So they can't. So we need to not bring garbage into the house. If there's no garbage in the house, they're not going to whine for it. Because, you know, 3-year-olds are very smart. So if you say, okay, we're no longer going to have this cereal, man, they're going to go in that pantry and they're going to dig for it. And they're like hounds, and they're going to climb on things and they're going to try to get to it. So if you have it and they see it, they'll continue whining. If you just go, store's out of it, they ran out. You know, now I'm always like, dude, you just tell them it's a quarantine. Oh, in a quarantine, they no longer have donuts. You know, they don't know. And, you know, people are like, oh, I don't want to lie to my children. Really? Because we tell them there's a Santa Claus. So suddenly we're all honest. I'm like, really? There's an Easter bunny. So how about there's no donuts in a quarantine? I feel like it goes the same genre. And so if you don't have it, then there's going to be no whining, because we expect them to have willpower. Really? Adults don't have willpower. If I have chips in my house, I will eat them all, and I will crush my children aside, and I will stomp over everyone, and I'm going to get to the potato chips, especially if they're salt and vinegar, and I won't even share, like, because that's a problem. But I don't have it in my house because I know that's my weakness. Okay. And then, so that's, and the last one, cook with your children. Have them in the kitchen. Let them explore the different things, you know, and they're like, well, they're messy. Of course they're messy. They're children. They're not supposed to cook clean. I'm messy. But they, you know, have them crack an egg. When you make a salad, make sure they wash their hands and have them toss the salad. When they do eat broccoli, when you cook broccoli, have them pick off all the little broccoli pieces, toss them in olive oil, put them on a tray. A 4-year-old can do that, you know, and the point of that is that we expect kids to sit at the table and eat it, but the human body, the way we digest, absorb nutrition is we see it, we smell it, we feel it and touch it. The eating and tasting is the last step. So if kids are not exposed and brought together with fruits and vegetables and just put at the table with a stern voice, you have to eat your broccoli, well, that's very negative versus like, let's go in the kitchen, let's have fun with the fruits and vegetables, let's go in a yard, let's plant a tomato plant.
Exactly. Yes, because I think it's not just kids need to be educated from where all it comes. Like, it's not like, you know, tomatoes coming from the ketchup bottle, you know. It needs to be like how it is, how everything it works, how they grow, where they grow. You know, they need to, I think, educated from when they are like kids, from the very little. So then they get better knowledge and a value and appreciation, I guess, you know, because we, you know, we all, as you say, we all busy. We don't have a time. And but sometimes, especially for the kids, we need to, like, parents need to make some sacrifices. And it's not easy, obviously. It's time consuming, but it's, you know, but it's for everyone is the same. And just to make excuses, like, it's same as myself. Like, I've seen so many times, like, in the shopping centers, like, you know, in the supermarkets, where the parents piling up the trolley, and the trolley is literally overloaded, and you see that they are kind of, as a the whole family is overweight. And the first thing I would do, like, I would just look at that trolley, what they have, and you think, like, I kind of even, like, saying that it's kind of, it's abusing a child, like, you know, giving all that junk food. And then I see another families where the parents are super, like, fit. They are skinny, fit. They, like, you know, going to the gym and all that. And they have overweight kids. And you think, how is that work? Like, why your child is overweight and you are so fit?
Yeah, and yes, and that goes back to they're taking care of their bodies. They're like, but the kids, it's too hard to deal with a whiny kid, and it's too hard to keep them occupied away from the pantry, and it's too hard to make them eat vegetables, and it's too hard to watch them not eat. Again, it's too hard. Somewhere along the line, we got the message that parenting is easy. Who said that? Parenting is so hard. It's from the moment they're born until even after they leave your house. I've left the house. It is always hard. So we need to stop coming in, oh, today is going to be an easy parenting day. No, every day is a challenge, and we can't walk around, you know, like that. So that's one of the things. So I think they allow their kids to eat a garbage diet compared to what they eat. And then, the other thing is a lot of parents go, well, when I was younger, I ate those foods and I was fine. So therefore the food is not the problem, because they're eating exactly what I ate. So there must be something else. And what I want to say to all the parents, the food we had 20, 30 years ago, it is not the same food we have today. In 1990, the amount of food additives that came on the market were astronomical. And the FDA in the US has not approved 10,000 ingredients. They were grandfathered in. They're like, it can't be that bad. Oh, we used them in the 70s. It should be fine. But I'll give you an example. Cornflakes. So in the US, when we had cornflakes in the 1980s, it was corn, salt, water, I don't know, one more, sugar. Those are the ingredients, right? That's it. And now you look at cornflakes and it's like all these ingredients that no one can pronounce, right? If you look at organic cornflakes, it's the corn, the water, salt, and sugar. It's the same ingredients that were in the 80s, but now it's the organic label, which people are like, oh, it's expensive, so I can't have that. But if you look at what cornflakes looks like in the 80s and cornflakes looks like now, it's a completely different product, laden with preservatives and food additives that the food chemists have put together. So these children appear to eat the same thing. They're not. Just like TV is not the same way. I like to tell people, I'm like, you know what, you go, well, I used to watch TV and I never had headaches or sleep issues, whatever, from, you know, because from the TV, I'm like, the TV in 1980 was a massive thing, right? It was like thick and like it weighed 1,000 million pounds. You needed your whole family to move your one TV from one apartment to the other, right? Yeah. And because that was a tube TV, that's a different technology. And now we have these very thin TVs with LED lights, which is blue light, which is messing up our brains and our sleep and our patterns and our hormone levels and everything else. So the environment we live right now, it is nothing close to what it was in the 1980s, but it looks on the surface like it is. Yeah. But if you look deep down, it's not. And that's one of the many reasons that we see such a discrepancy from the fit parents and the overweight children.
Well, Dr. Anna Maria, before we're going to wrap up, is there anything else in your mind you would like to share with the listeners?
If you can take one takeaway, is that food has the power to heal us and food has the power to hurt us. When you decide that your health is more important than, whatever, when you decide that your body is the most important thing you own, and that this is the only body you have, you can't trade it in, you can't substitute it, this is it, you got one body. When you decide that your body is the most important and you're going to treasure it, and you're going to teach your children to treasure their bodies, amazing things are going to happen. Definitely.
It's true. Definitely. It's true. And also, can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, if you guys want to join me, I have a ton of free education that is coming, that I have on Instagram under Dr. Anna Maria Temple. And that's all. My website is drannamaria.com. Either way, I'm happy to assist you with, picky eating and healthy tips on how to raise healthy families. And everything that I do is with an approach to avoid medication and to have happy, healthy children. And I would love to see you there and help your family thrive.
Amazing. Well, Dr. Anna Maria, thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you. It was very interesting.
Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. And to our listeners, thank you for watching and have a good day.